My name is Rachel Foster, and I never imagined that one day I would tell something like this. But after my experience of passing away, I realized that this story needed to be shared. On October 5, 2023, my life took an unexpected turn. After an exhausting day at work, I was on my way home when a violent accident interrupted my journey. For exactly 6 minutes and 42 seconds I left this plane. And in that brief moment I witnessed something that would change my existence forever. Jesus revealed a forgotten truth about Black people, a mystery hidden for centuries that challenges everything we know about the history of humanity. It was supposed to be just another ordinary day. I woke up, had my coffee, kissed my husband, and headed to the hospital where I worked as a nurse. My night shift was long and tiring, but nothing out of the ordinary. The work routine was always the same: taking care of patients, filling out medical records, administering medications. It was an exhausting but necessary cycle. What I wanted most at that moment was to get home, take off my shoes, and rest. The day was beginning to draw to a close, and I knew that a peaceful night awaited me. I got in my car, turned on the radio, and started driving down the road I knew so well. The streets were empty. The sky was cloudy and it was starting to rain gently. The rain, as always, brought a sense of calm, but that day something seemed different. I didn't know it yet, but I was about to experience something that would change my life forever. As I got closer to home, I noticed bright headlights coming toward me, cutting through the darkness. The car was coming too fast, and when I looked more closely, I realized it was out of control. My heart was racing. There was no time to react. The impact was violent. My car spun out of control, and in a matter of seconds, the world around me went silent. The sound of the rain and the headlights, mixed with the shock that reverberated through my body. Everything went blurry. I couldn't understand what had happened, but I knew something was very wrong. I was there, powerless, with my body in pain and a strange sensation in the air. My mind was slowly starting to shut down, but before everything went black, a single question echoed. How can life change so quickly without warning? I expected to feel pain, fear, or despair, but to my surprise, I experienced none of these feelings. Instead, I was enveloped by an indescribable peace, a tranquility, so deep that it seemed to envelop every cell of my being. It was as if all the weight of the situation had disappeared, leaving room only for a feeling of unusual lightness. I looked around and realized something completely inexplicable. I was no longer inside my body. Somehow I was floating above the scene, watching myself among the wreckage. My body motionless, as ambulances and first responders approached, racing against time. I wanted to scream. I wanted to say that I was fine, but my voice wouldn't come out. There was a feeling of detachment, as if my soul were free from my body, without any connection to what was happening there. I was in a state of total consciousness, but at the same time, of total disconnection from the material world. It was then that an intense light enveloped me, unlike any light I had ever seen. It was a light that emanated heat, but not the physical heat that we feel in the material world. It was a pure light, filled with unconditional love and acceptance. I felt enveloped by it, as if I was being embraced by a force much greater than myself, a force that seemed to understand all my anguish, all my pain, and at that moment, offered me something much more valuable, the certainty that everything was fine. I was not alone. An invisible force was pulling me upwards, to a place where reality seemed to be completely different from what I knew. There was no fear. There was no anxiety. There was only absolute serenity, as if time and space no longer mattered. Suddenly, everything around me disappeared, and I found myself facing something incredible. Something that I could not describe with words, but that somehow I knew would be a part of me forever. I found myself in a space of infinite light, a place where the brightness was not blinding, but soft, welcoming, as if the very essence of light was life. Everything around me vibrated in perfect harmony, as if the entire universe was in tune. Every particle, every sound, every movement seemed to pulse with a serene and elevated energy, as if I were connected to something greater than myself, something eternal and immeasurable. It was an indescribable feeling of belonging, of being at home, at peace. It was in this moment of total tranquility that I heard a voice. It was strong but not intimidating. On the contrary, it was full of compassion, of a softness that touched the soul. The voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at the same time, as if existence itself was speaking to me. "Rachel, don't be afraid." Instantly, my heart recognized the voice, and without understanding how, I turned around. At that very moment, I knew who he was, even before I could see him clearly. It was something beyond physical vision. It was as if my soul recognized him, as if he were a part of me, of everyone, of everything. And when my eyes finally adjusted, there he was, Jesus. Not as in the images I had always seen, but as he really was. His presence was so powerful that my body bowed without me thinking, and I fell to my knees before him, completely surrendered to his greatness. He did not have an appearance that could be limited by human forms. His eyes, however, were immortal, reflecting an endless wisdom, mixed with a tenderness so deep that it seemed to contain the love of the entire universe. When he spoke, his voice touched my heart in a way that no words could describe, as if each syllable was a cure for the pains I did not even know I carried. "Rise, my daughter," he said, reaching out toward me. When our fingers touched, an indescribable energy coursed through my being, something so intense and profound that I cannot put it into words. It was as if the universe itself had been compressed into a single point of light, and in that point, all of God's love and truth were concentrated, filling every cell of my body. It was not a physical sensation, but something far beyond anything we can experience on earth. The sensation was so pure and intense that all my doubts, my fears, my insecurities disappeared, as if they had never existed. "I have something to reveal to you," he said, his voice soft but charged with an authority that resonated deep within my soul. "A truth that has been hidden from the world." His words echoed within me, and before I could fully comprehend it, everything around us began to transform. The space that surrounded us seemed to dissolve, and in the blink of an eye, we were transported to a place that belonged to no known time or space. It was as if we were beyond the reach of time, in a place beyond human comprehension. The feeling of displacement was sudden, but the peace that filled that environment was overwhelming. Before my eyes, a sequence of images began to unfold. They were not mere memories or stories. They were living fragments of human history, seen from a completely different perspective. I saw the rise of empires, the rise and fall of cultures, battles and conquests, but I also saw moments of great compassion and sacrifice, of miracles and profound pain. Each scene flashed by, as if I were watching a movie on high speed. And then, suddenly, everything stopped. The images froze, and before me appeared something I had never imagined, something that would change everything I believed forever. Jesus looked at me with a serious expression, but at the same time filled with deep and unconditional love. His eyes seemed to see the truth within me, as if he knew exactly what I needed to understand at that moment. "Rachel, the time has come for you to know the truth about my people." With those words, the world around us brightened, and in the blink of an eye, I was transported to a completely different place. I now found myself in a resplendent city, something completely out of the ordinary. The buildings around me looked like they belonged to an ancient civilization, but the glow and energy they emitted transcended any human era I had ever known. It was as if time had no dominion here. The air was charged with such profound wisdom and knowledge that I felt as if I were standing before something that should never have been forgotten. "This is a piece of history that has been lost," he said, his voice deep and full of authority. As I looked around, I saw people walking through the streets of this glorious city. What did I